So with balance, if you think about the idea of these physical weights that a painting can have, right, they're going to impact the piece. So it's going to impact not only the art piece, but also the way we react to it as well. So balance provides this visual equilibrium that helps the work appear complete. So when we're looking at visual balance, right, we're noticing these kind of differences between the two halves. And so let's look at a couple of these examples so that we can understand why balance would be important in an analysis of an art piece. So with symmetrical balance, if a work can be cut into half and each side looks identically the same, then it would be considered symmetrical. So if you think about like the human body, most of animals' geometric shapes would be considered symmetrical. So here in this cross, we can see that it's a symmetrical piece because both sides are identical. And then inside of it, it does have, it's covered with Christian symbols, right? And so why would a symmetrical balance be important in something like this? If you think about religion, you think about the idea of this stability and strength in a piece. Symmetrical balance creates that. It's safe, it's predictable, there's no surprises. And because of that predictability and that stability, it's a great piece to communicate and talk about religion. So the image of the cross ties very well to this type of balance. When we look at asymmetrical balance, this is where the weights are very different in the composition, right? So you've got different visual weights. So there might be elements on the left and on the right that they're not the same, but together they're going to counterbalance each other. So this is a Japanese print, and so with this piece right here, it's a great example of asymmetrical balance. And in a lot of Japanese artwork, there's a lot of use of that. So if you look at what is my right, your left, the trees right here, if you see this side of the drawing, you'll see how the tree is closer to us. And so it naturally has a like more weight to it. But in order to balance it out, the artist creates these little other elements in the right side. And so on this corner, he's got this poem that he's written. And so the poem and these little small objects here counterbalance this piece. So he's creating balance. It's an asymmetrical balance, but he's counterbalancing it with something else on the right. So the bird, the poem, and these rocks and this like piece of tree right here, all counterbalancing each other. Also, a nice thing in this piece that you look at is the directional line, right? It's an implied line, but it also takes us up to this side. So this also helps with that distribution of weights. Radial balance is achieved when the elements are equidistant from a central point. So if you repeat it in a symmetrical way from side to side, top to bottom, it's almost like circular. It can imply these, create this radial balance. So in this image right here of the mandala, a mandala that was created by monks, you see where the symbols are equidistant from the center and symmetrical, right? So they go to the top, the bottom, side to side. And so in this example of radial balance, the reason that a lot of religions use radial balance is because it is tied to religion. It is tied to like spirituality. So these mandalas are really important because they are a act of meditation. So the monks will create these, and it takes several days to create these. These are all sand paintings done by hand. And then after they're finished, and it's like, several days go on before they're finished, then they're destroyed, and they're carefully destroyed. They're swept away. But the idea is that they're capturing that impermanence, right? So in Buddhist religion, they talk about the idea of impermanence. So it's like the meditation, and then everything changes, right? And so it's continuously changing. So this is a great example of how radial balance really helps the artwork and the content. So when you're looking at art pieces, right, and we're thinking about the principle of balance, just kind of keep that in mind, that when you're looking at this, how does that weight, the distribution of the weights, impact the work, right? Does it help it, right? And so if you already see like a symmetrical balance, you're already understanding that there's no surprises. We know that it's predictable. So that predictability might weigh into the content. Whereas if it is asymmetrical, right, you could also be talking about the idea of these like maybe good and evil, or two different sides, or even creating like a focal point where one side is going to lead you to the other side, right? Creating a focal point. So there's those things to think about, is like how balance is impacting the artwork.